to. So do you have people in your life that you want to wish well, but when you just think of them, it's like, ugh, it's so difficult? Do you? Yeah, I think we probably all do, you know. So, of course, intellectually we want to, yeah, but it can be really hard because our mind just forms opinions, um, and just goes like that on the opinion, and it equates that person with one conceptual appearance, one mental image that we formed of them. So they no longer are a human being, they are simply a stereotype. Yeah. And in our mind, the only thing they are in their life is that stereotype. And the only thing they do in their life is what that stereotype does. So they don't do other things like, take care of their family or have a sense of humor or share things with their neighbors or give somebody a helping hand. We don't see them in as the full person they are. We just see, our mind just shuts off. It's like, okay. So I think the way, we have to first see that person as a living being with feelings. Yeah. And that, to me, that's the way to start the process of generating love and compassion, to see that they're not that stereotype. Yeah. That they're an actual living being who has a family, who is related to other people, who wants to be happy, who doesn't want to suffer, who is confused, who, is searching for something in their life to relieve their stress and anxiety and suffering. So they're basically just like me. They really see that this is a living being with feelings. Yeah, and that they get sick and they don't like being sick, and they get old and they don't like being old, and that they're afraid of death, and they want people to love them, but they have a hard time loving other people and accepting other people in return. Yeah. In other words, we're not that different inside. Externally, we may be different nationalities or races or genders or socioeconomic classes or whatever it is, but to see that this person, that's not their real identity, that's not who they really are. Yeah. So to spend some time just thinking about that. And that could entail learning something more about what people like that do for a living and how they live and what their concerns are. This may be somebody who is an industrial worker. It may be somebody who is a peasant. It may be somebody who is a professional with a drug addiction problem or an alcohol problem. Yeah. So to really think about read something about other people so that I can see them as individuals, as human beings, and then go back to the meditations about the kindness of others. So either doing it in terms of that person was my mother in many previous lives and the kindness of the mother, or just, as this is done in that's from the 7-point cause and effect instructions, or seeing the equality of living beings, or the kindness of living beings through equalizing and exchanging self and others, where we do it in terms of just them doing their jobs in society. Yeah. And our having our food, our having electricity, our society being able to function depends on these people's jobs. So how can I just have contempt for them? Yeah. And regardless of their political beliefs, they're human beings, and contempt is just not a suitable thing to feel towards others. Yeah, because they are not a stereotype. Yeah. And also, what's helped me in this regard is from my own experience, especially having traveled so long and been in many different situations where I've had to rely on other people that normally I wouldn't associate with. But because of the circumstances, you know, my, and when I say associate with, it's because I'm thinking of them as just that mental image and nothing beyond that. But when I think of the number of times I've been in situations where I've had to depend on those people and I've had to get to know them, you're traveling in India, and so, you just meet somebody at the railway station and you both need a companion and you team up with them. And then you're traveling with them and where are you from? What's your life like? What do you think about this and that? And then suddenly that stereotypical image just vanishes. Yeah. And there's this living, breathing human being, and it becomes so much easier to see their kindness because they're being kind to you right then and there, as being a traveling companion, because so that you don't have to travel alone in a country where you don't know the language. Okay. So I've had so many of those kind of experiences that it really helps me when I encounter another instance where my mind comes up with a very strong derogatory mental image of somebody, to be able to say, okay, look what you're doing, and change it, because that's not who this person is. And then, of course, the different kinds of kindness they've shown you. And once you see the kindness of somebody, then automatically you want to repay that kindness. You want to, you develop the courage to even imagine taking on their suffering and giving them your happiness. And then Tonglen becomes much easier.
I appreciate what you just said about, the people change in front of you, but it's your mind that change.
Yeah.
What I like to think about is that I imagine that he's a Buddha and he's teaching me where I'm closed.
Yes.
Where my heart is closed.
Yeah.
So I like to think about that. He's just showing me where I'm not open,
Yep.
where my heart is not open.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So that's
he's a gift.
So that's another very useful technique. It's like this person is like my Dharma teacher, or the Buddha, showing me where I've shut down. Yeah. So I'm grateful for this situation, to know this person, because otherwise I would go through my whole life classifying people like this and looking down on them. And so now, through the kindness of the Buddha, my teacher, I have the chance to start remedying this. So that's another technique to use that's really useful to change our mind.